Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to your September horoscopes for your zodiac sign. Now, this is how you're going to read for your sign. You're going to read first for your rising sign. If you do not know your rising sign, you want to go on a free 99 website like AstroSeek or astro.com. You punch in your data, your date of birth, location, and time, and then you will see your rising sign, which is also the ascendant. Then you're going to read for your ascendant sign. This is how I do the monthly forecasts because this will give you a bigger picture of where the transits are going through your own personal houses. Now, as a disclaimer, like always, this is based on just your rising sign. There's other things to take into consideration, like if you have any natal placements in and around the degrees that I mention. Another thing to keep in mind is that not all transits will impact you because they just won't. Like, that's why you want to look at the degree of the transit and if you have any placements around that specific transit. Try not to get into this mindset of, is this good or bad? Because only you can perceive of something as good or bad. Something that might be a challenging aspect for me or its transit might actually be something that ends up being a blessing in disguise later on. So I try not to say what is good or bad. I'll say, this is an auspicious day to start something. This might bring blessings down the road. This is a challenging transit that you might need to lean into, or you might be triggered on this day. That's how I try to do the forecast so that you are prepared and you're not blindsided by certain things that might happen. You also have to take into consideration your profection year, so your time lord, different like midlife transits. You know, there's people going through their Saturn return right now, which is a different experience than if you weren't going through a Saturn return. Some people are going through their midlife transits. They're going through their simultaneous Pluto and Neptune square. So there's all these different layers to take into consideration when you listen to this. And like I said, collectively, 2025, we're all going through massive changes. We're all being asked to show up in different ways to really work through our own bullshit, to heal our trauma. And then individually, we can narrow that down to certain things that we are going to be focusing on in our own transits. So, if you want to learn more about your own specific natal chart, I am teaching Astrology 101. I opened up my star school that starts October 6th. It's a 12-week class. We meet for 2 hours every Monday between 12 and 2 p.m. And I'm going to teach you how to read your natal chart so that when you listen to the transits and you remember, oh, I have a 5-degree sun in Aries. So then next year, the Saturn and Neptune conjunction in Aries is going to impact me. Stuff like that. It's really important to understand your natal chart when you listen to these transits, because like I said, not all transits are going to impact you. And also not all transits impact people the same way. So that is one way you can go deeper with me. And I mean, obviously you're listening to this. So if you are a Patreon member, you're getting this at the top of the month. If you want to become a Patreon member so that you could receive this in the beginning of the month versus like when it's, we're already going into mid-month, then you can be in the North Node. I believe I call it the North Node tier. It's $10 a month. And you can also listen to the monthly forecast that I do with Stephanie Campos, which we go day by day, every single day of the month. In these monthly transits, I only really talk about the ones that would impact your rising sign, the most important ones. Obviously, the 2 lunations and any of your chart rulers, your planetary ruler changing signs or making significant aspects. If you want to come along with me every week in the forecast where I break it down day by day, that's free 99 on YouTube. But if you want to support my work, you can join the first tier of my Patreon, which you just pay $5. I think it's $5.55 a month to support my work. So that is how to engage with the content of the monthly forecasts. I obviously can't answer all of the questions you have if you are not a Patreon member. This is another benefit of being a member because if you're not a Patreon member and you're watching it in the general public, you're already catching this forecast in like mid-month when I've already, spent a lot of time putting this out for my Patreon members. So they get first priority. And then if you're watching just the clips of it, just know that I post the clips for marketing purposes, but there's a whole month of transits that give context to your experience. Because there were a couple of people that just watched the clips last month and they were like, yeah, but I'm a Libra rising and this Venus Cancer conjunction in my 10th house is not auspicious for me. I just got fired from my job. But if you had watched the full month forecast, I said that Venus and Jupiter, just because they're both benefics, doesn't mean that it's all going to be like rainbows and butterflies. So those are the disclaimers. Thank you so much for being here and thank you so much for supporting my work. Let's get to your sign. Hello, Scorpio rising, and welcome to your September forecast. So, as we begin the month with Virgo season, you will be in an 11th house season. And then as we enter Libra season, you will be in a 12th house season, which is every Libra season for you. So that's quite a vibe shift. So, Virgo being your 11th house, the focus will be on your long term goals, desires, and wishes, and groups, community. And if you have a following on social media, that would be your followers. Now, your chart ruler, Mars, is changing signs from its detriment in Libra in the 12th house into its domicile in your first. So, again, the topics of 12th house of your fears, your self undoing thoughts and behaviors, needing some isolation and recuperation and rest into your first house of your physical body and your sense of self. So yeah, the September vibe are 11th, 12th, and first house topics. Now, there are two squares this month that deal with your chart ruler, Mars, and one of them is Jupiter in Cancer, and the other with Pluto in Aquarius at the end of the month. So there's a lot of growth being asked from you and a lot of expansion. And this is going to take some, I would say, grit and faith in yourself and really believing in what you have to offer to the collective. Let's start from the beginning. September 1st, Saturn will retrograde back into Pisces, which is your fifth house. This is really lovely. The fifth house is the house of good fortune in astrology. So currently you have this north node there and the south node traveling through your 11th houses. So the 5th and 11th houses are actually the houses of our creativity, our wishes, our dreams, romance. And so Saturn coming back here gives more of a serious tone. Like, are you taking your creation seriously? Are you more disciplined in what you're creating? Saturn rules let's see, where does Saturn rule? Saturn rules your fourth house of home and your private life, and your third house of what you know and the people and things that are within close proximity to you. So this could be something that you're putting out into the world, whether it is a literal child, like a literal person, or some of your hobbies that you are taking more seriously. And I think this is the case because the fifth house ruler is in your ninth house. The ninth house is the house of philosophy, spirituality, the house of God, the house of traveling to foreign lands and foreign places. This is also the house of astrology. So, a lot of you are really digging deep into your faith, your sense of faith in yourself, and a belief in something greater to help you birth something new. On September 2nd, Mercury will ingress into Virgo. Now, you've been enjoying Virgo season so far with the sun in your 11th house. So, the ruler of your 10th, your career, your personal goals, and the things that you are birthing out into the universe is in the house of the collective, the groups. So, have you been putting yourself out there a little bit more? With Mercury ingressing into Virgo in its exaltation and domicile, this will be more the case. You might be sharing your ideas with people. You might be dusting off your social media um, apps if you've been more, internal with Mars in your 12th house in its detriment. So yeah, having Mercury here can make you more social as well. And I would suggest you do that if you haven't been doing that, because having Mercury here in its domicile, in its exaltation, is going to get your ideas out there and have it be more receptive to people. On September 4th, Mars in Libra will square Jupiter in Cancer at 18 degrees. And this is the transit that I was kind of referring to. Now, Mars is your chart ruler. And when it's in its detriment in the 12th house, which, happens every 2 or so years, this is when you might feel like you need more time to isolate yourself. You might need more time to be alone, to recuperate, to rest. I would I would hope that you took this time to kind of reset, to recoup, um, to remember why you're doing the thing, whatever it is that you're doing, and kind of recharge your batteries. Jupiter in the ninth, in its exaltation in Cancer, does have more dignity, and it is in an overcoming square to Mars, your chart ruler. So, this is going to, whatever this is, whatever you're going through right now, whatever Scorpio risings have been kind of been grappling with, I would say, since May of this year, since the spring, it's going to require you to have deeper faith in a greater being, whatever it is, either your ancestors, a spirit guide, a guru. Jupiter is the teacher. This is really asking you to believe in something that you don't see, something that is guiding you. So I hope a lot of Scorpio risings, as you're going through this transit of Jupiter in your ninth, you are becoming more in tune with your spiritual self and having some sort of spiritual practice. And I like this because I like what I'm saying, because the third house ruler is in the sixth. So your third house is Capricorn. The third house is the house of divination and rituals, and it's in the house of the sixth house, which is your daily ritual. And having Saturn here for just that blip from May to, essentially September 1st, hopefully you were able to incorporate some of your spiritual rituals into your daily habits and routines. I hope that you created some sort of altar to your ancestors to help guide you, as Saturn also rules your fourth house of ancestors, the people that came before you, essentially. September 4th is a day to look out for, though, because Mars square Jupiter is a more challenging aspect. you might be getting in your own way is what I'm trying to say. Like you might be sabotaging yourself because something is trying to bloom, something is trying to grow, and some of your fears of inadequacy or some of your fears of uh, a lack of self-confidence perhaps is getting in the way of you truly putting yourself out there. We had Leo season in August. Leo is your 10th house, and that is the ultimate conflict with a Scorpio rising and a Leo 10th house. Scorpios want to observe from afar, from your cave, your cavern, but Leo is like, we need to put this out there. We need to be seen. We need to be heard. On September 6th, Uranus will station retrograde at 1 degree of Gemini in your eighth house. Now, the eighth house is also a house where it's hidden, the eighth and the 12th. So, Uranus going through your eighth house is getting you to really be aware of the ways in which you are, there is this stereotype around Scorpios around being obsessive, secretive, cunning, strategic. And some of that has to do with Scorpio's ability to go really deep and being really intimate. The eighth house is shared resources, especially from a partner, because the eighth is the second from the seventh. So when you have a transit like this in the eighth house, something is being shaken up, disrupted. Something is needing to change in terms of how you combine forces or merge with a partner, perhaps. And partner doesn't have to be just a romantic partner. This could be a business partner. This could be somebody that you work with, somebody that you have an intimate relationship with, even friendships. What parts of yourself are you hiding because you're afraid of rejection? So as Uranus retrogrades, and it will go back into your seventh house um, towards the fall and next spring, this is really asking you. I mean, you've been going through Uranus in your seventh for 8 years. So your partnerships, your relationships have been changing. And as a result, it has been asking you to change as well, since the seventh is in an opposition to you. So these are just things to think about. These are just things to reflect on. On September 7th, we have a lunar eclipse at 2:08 p.m. Eastern Time at 15 degrees of Pisces. And I actually um, like this eclipse for you. And I know I shouldn't say that because in the beginning I said don't don't conflate eclipses or transits to good or bad, but I think that this eclipse is really asking you to birth and be really honest about what it is that you are meant to do. Like, because the first, fifth, and ninth houses in Vedic astrology are the Dharma houses, they are our purpose. And so this eclipse in Pisces is happening in your fifth house, which is in a trine to you. This is something that you are birthing. This is a prioritization of romance in your life. This is the house of pleasure, joy, taking a risk. This lunar eclipse is a north node eclipse. It's a full moon. So something is completing, but it is a north node. This is something that your soul is trying to integrate, trying to make manifest, trying to make real in this material realm. And the ruler of this moon is Jupiter, which is in your ninth. And what I love about this eclipse is that the moon is in a trine to its ruler. So there's mutual reception there. So there's support between your fifth house and your ninth house. Again, these are the Dharma houses. Whatever you are passionate about, whatever is sparking in your soul, whatever is emotionally fulfilling to you, you will know you're on the right track if this is something that feels emotionally fulfilling to you, as this is a water sign eclipse. So during eclipses, I like to think that whatever intentions we've set throughout the year, through all the new moons, whatever we've released in the full moons, this is the moment of the year because this happens twice a year. You know, we had eclipses in March, we're having them again in September, where we kind of get to sit back and the universe takes the wheel, God takes the wheel, Jesus takes the wheel, whoever you believe in, and we allow things to change. Something massive is happening in your fifth house. So if you have children, then some relationship with your children, some facet of your relationship might be changing or ending. You might have grown kids who are going to college. So that might be what this means for you. And you are, you know, you might be having empty nest syndrome and you have to remember your own drive, your own personal passions. You might be somebody, a Scorpio rising, who might be, um, you know, thinking about having children and trying for the first time, as, you know, having the fifth house ruler in an exaltation in Cancer, which is a very fertile placement for Jupiter. And I was saying even last year in the 2025 forecast that a lot of people would be trying to get pregnant this year using Jupiter in its exaltation as a fertile year for a lot of people. But if you're not interested in having children, like I mentioned, this could just be a time when you are more focused on your hobbies and what makes life worth living. On September 13th, Mercury and the Sun will come together in a cazimi. This is like probably the loveliest conjunction of the month. And actually, the second week of September is this nice, sweet moment of reprieve between eclipses. And this is happening in your 11th house. And I really like this again because the 11th house is in a sextile to you. This is your long term wishes and goals, desires. This is the collective. This is groups. This is friendships. And so, whatever the next eclipse, the solar eclipse in Virgo is releasing for you, just remember that there is something better that's trying to be formed here. So Mercury is exalted and in its domicile in Virgo. And when we do magic, when we do like electional astrology, you want to use these moments if you are doing mercurial things like launching a business or writing or announcements, like I am obviously teaching astrology 101. Mercury is the significator for astrologers. So I'm using this Kazimi moment to launch something. So you want to use this day to either receive downloads from the divine, you want to have some solo time to get really clear about what it is that you want to, you know, the next 6 months until the next equinox or the next 3 months until the solstice, or you want to launch something on this day if they have to deal with mercurial things like all the things I just mentioned. On September 18th, Mercury will ingress into Libra. So, all the things that I said about Mercury now will go into your 12th house. So, your thoughts might become more of a crashing out nature. But, you know, when Mercury goes into the 12th house, this is really about examining what self sabotaging thoughts or the ways in which you might communicate that are not helpful. You might need to really interrogate those things because, again, 12th house is the house of the unknown and the unseen. It's the area of our life where we also need to isolate, or we isolate ourselves because we need to intentionally have time to recuperate. It's a house where we get really real about our fears, you know? So Mercury rules your 11th house. and it also rules your eighth house. So that's why I say this is a time to really interrogate some of the fears you might have, some of the things that are possibly holding you back. On September 18th, Venus will ingress into Virgo in your 11th house. Now, Venus is in its fall in Virgo. And so there might be this feeling of, I'm not adequate, or I'm not worthy of some of the things that I desire. However, Venus is still a benefic. So having Venus in the 11th, which is in a sextile to you, I think is still lovely. You had Venus in Leo in the 10th. So the focus of relations and your worth, value, your star power was really prevalent in the month of August until September. And now that focus is shifting into your 11th, which is making bonds and relations with other people that can support you, maybe doing some community organizing. Venus and Virgo people really do. I know a lot of Venus and Virgo people who are estheticians and who are into fashion and beauty. So I don't know how, like, maybe some Scorpio risings will get into aesthetics of like fashion or beauty. I don't know. And maybe like sharing that interest and getting into communities or groups that, you know, that sustain that desire, that love. Venus rules your seventh house of partnerships as well. So you just might, decide to collaborate with people in your community. But yeah, I think having Venus in the 11th house is always lovely. It's always, at the end of the day, you could become more attractive to other people. Or this could explain, or this could be the people that are in your community are Venus and Virgo type of people who are, they have a specific niche that they're interested in. These are people that I'm thinking of, like, regardless of your feelings about them, Blake Lively, Meghan Markle, Gwyneth Paltrow, they're all Venus and Virgo people. These are people who obviously have a niche. They're all in some type of beauty wellness category in their businesses. So this could just have you be more interested in that, or you're attracted to people who are interested in those topics. On September 21st, there is a partial solar eclipse at 3:54 p.m. Eastern time at 29 degrees of Virgo. So this is a solar eclipse, the new moon. However, it is a south node eclipse. So like I said, something is exiting left of your life. And this is kind of a challenging eclipse just because it is opposing Saturn and Pisces in your fifth house. So there's tension, like I said in the beginning, between your fifth house of your pleasures, your personal like passion projects, and the collective and your groups. So having this new moon solar eclipse opposing Saturn, this could be you coming to a head with some Saturnian figure, like an elder, like a family member, like an auntie or an uncle, somebody that's like maybe doesn't believe in what you have to do or offer. It could be a parental figure that's just like, you want to do astrology? That's what my mom said to me last year, by the way. Some like judgmental elder Saturnian figure that's just like, no. Saturn is the planet of no. But this could just mean that it's a challenging moment for you to get real and have a reality check. Like, again, having Jupiter in the ninth is like asking you to have faith in whatever you're doing, no matter what challenges come against you, no matter who doesn't believe in you. Scorpio risings this month will be challenged for you to believe in yourself, regardless of who's against what you want to do. September 22nd, hallelujah for you. Mars will ingress into your first, into Scorpio in its domicile. Mars, when it ingresses into Scorpio, is just going to give you more power. It's going to give you more oomph. It's in its own sign. So you can think back to, I believe this was the fall of 2023. Similar topics might arise at this time, but this is just really lovely for you. You're going to get like a boost. You might have more energy. You might feel more determined and more of a scorpionic person. It's like, world, be careful. Scorpios have their planetary ruler in the first house. On the same day, this is the equinox. So this is the fall equinox. So now you are in a 12th house season. So yeah, you might just feel more energetic. The sun lighting up your 12th house, I think, is helpful because it'll help you to really see what sorts of things have been possibly holding you back. Whenever you have a 12th house season before yours, right? Because next month in October will be Scorpio season. So this is like a rebirth of self. This is a season of letting go, of cutting away what no longer serves you. Perhaps relationships, right? Because Libra is relationships. And this could be really helpful for your career as well. Like I said, the sun rules your 10th house. So whatever tensions you have of like wanting to kind of play the side character or wanting to observe from your cave, think of all the reasons why maybe whatever stories you've held or whatever, things that you've told yourself are needing to be cut away. And you probably would have started this journey as Mars was in your 12th house. And now the sun comes here and it's like, okay, we're lighting this shit up. Some of you might even feel compelled during this time to just share more about your personal life, be more vulnerable, be more raw. And I know that's a difficult thing for Scorpio risings to do because you are so private. And then on September 24th, this is kind of a challenging day just because the sun will trine Pluto in Aquarius and Mars in Scorpio will square Pluto in Aquarius at 1 degree, which is your 4th house. Again, very private house. So something is going on in your home sector, whether it's like your physical home or your feeling of home in your body, your idea of feelings of safety and security. Something might be going on with your parents. But there is a tension here. Mars and Scorpio in your first. And when Mars is in the sign of Scorpio, this is an energy of survival. And I would say it could go one of two ways. If a Scorpio rising is in its survival mode of like in its shadow aspect, this is where Mars and Scorpio could be of an energy of revenge and the scorpionic tail, revenge, obsession, not letting shit go, and being kind of like a scary stalker. Or the other conscious, elevated version of a Scorpio, Mars and Scorpio, is being determined, being fixed on your goals, taking that scorpionic energy and transmuting it into doing something that is beneficial for self and community, right? But there's a trigger point here because when Mars is like the stinger, right? And when Mars squares Pluto, this could bring up old traumas from the past since it's in the 4th house. This could bring up old wounding in the home, family trauma, childhood trauma. This could make you then either shut down, what is it? Um, fight or flight, fawn or freeze, or you might just disassociate. I would try to use this constructively, like pay attention to the triggers that are coming up, the trauma that is coming up. And I always recommend Resmaa Menakem's book, My Grandmother's Hands. This might be a good book as a resource during this time because this is not an easy transit, especially for Scorpio risings. And just try to find the historical root of this trauma and try to ascertain the ways that you can transmute this in a healthy manner. So that is September for you, Scorpio risings. I hope you have a beautiful month. Stay safe and try to rest and recuperate as much as possible.